Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and in today's video we're going to have a look at the latest from the live radar. Run for the weather warnings, as we do have a widespread yellow rain warning issued for tonight into tomorrow for much of England and Wales, so we are seeing some very heavy rain, and you can see on the live radar moving in at the moment. Now once this rain clears, we're actually going to be going into quite a cold Arctic air mass as we head towards the weekend, and we'll see that from the latest UKV. It could give the potential for some snow showers over the highlands of Scotland and quite widespread frosts for northern England, Republic of Ireland, Northern Ireland and Scotland. There is even the potential for it to drift into parts of Wales and England as well, depending on the cloud cover. So a proper cold Arctic air mass moving in. Again, nothing too unusual for the time of year, but definitely quite considerably below average and quite a shock to the system compared to what we've had over the past couple of weeks or so. And as we see in the latest on the longer range, the GFS, GEM, Eastern WF and the Ensembles, it's looking likely high pressure will dominate, but it will be a Scandinavian high, producing some sort of easterly winds. Now I say some sort of easterly winds because we're unsure exactly on the orientation of the general easterly wind coming from Scandinavia. It'll be quite cold. We'd be looking at top temperatures in the high single digits. We'd be looking at frosty nights and quite drab conditions. More of a southeasterly, then it still probably would be a little bit chilly. Still would bring in probably some cloud and some rain, but we're likely to see temperatures slightly higher. So yeah, not looking great in the longer term if you do want some remnants of some summer weather or something a bit drier in general. Yes, high pressure is going to be involved, but there probably will be quite a bit of cloud and quite a bit of rain and maybe even a little bit of snow for Scotland. So yeah, looking like a proper autumnal and even a little bit of a taste of winter in the next week or two. So do remember, if you enjoy my videos, make sure you like and subscribe, and remember to follow me on Twitter as well, the link's in the description. Now much of today has been fairly dry, some drips and drabs of rain down in the far south of England as the weather front that spread through yesterday finally cleared, but we've had a couple of hours of dry weather, and the next weather front is arriving, and this is going to be extremely intense with lots of rainfall in quite a large area because it's just a big wall of rain, real no breaks within it, and it will luckily drop most of its rainfall overnight tonight. So by the time we wake up tomorrow morning, a lot of rainfall will have fallen, but hopefully the rain will start to break up. But it is, of course, a genuine low pressure system, so it's normally two-pronged. We've got the warm front and the cold front. At the moment, this is the warm front moving in. Once the cold front sweeps through, perhaps tomorrow afternoon to the evening, we could see even a bit of a squall feature within the mess of this rain, and that could give some more lively conditions in a few spots tomorrow evening, so we've got to watch out for that. But for the time being, most other areas around the British Isles are pretty dry. Northwesterly winds started to come in for Scotland. You can actually see a bit of an Arctic front there, so you can see this heavier line of showers. There'll be much colder air behind it, and that is spreading southwards. And I said, once this low clears, that air will flood in on the backside of this low pressure system. Now, if you look at the temperatures, it's around 7:30, 8, you can see it is colder in the north as we've got that cool air feeding in, which is to the north of this low pressure system. But as this low moves in, it will bring in some temporary warmer air for sweeping away and dragging this cool air down, but even colder air that's originating all the way up from Greenland and the Arctic. Again, it's not going to be anywhere near that cold, or anywhere near as cold as it would be if this sort of pattern happened in January, but still nevertheless good 5 to maybe as much as 10 degrees below average in some areas. Now, if you look at the weather warnings, you can see this widespread rain warning issued for all of Wales and much of England. Again, it was issued yesterday, but of course we did our winter update yesterday, and it's been updated again today. And it starts at 9 p.m, so in about an hour's time, and completes itself and finishes at 8 p.m. tomorrow. The warning was updated to extend further northwards and eastwards and highlight this chance of some strong gusty winds in places, and luckily the end time has been brought forward by a few hours. Again, we're looking 45 to 50 miles per hour inland, maybe as high as 60 miles per hour on some southern coast, widely 10 to 20 millimetres of rainfall, some spots 30 to 50 millimetres, and parts of Wales could see 70 millimetres, and maybe there could even be a bit of thundery weather in this, again, with that squall feature potentially tomorrow, and there could be 20 to 30 millimetres in only a matter of a couple of hours. High likelihood, lower end of the impact matrix. Now, if you go over to the UKV and see how this does evolve over the next 24 hours or so, and the next 5 days in general, you can see the weather front spreading in this evening, big wall of rain arriving, initially really quite heavy, and you can see the warm front spreads in, and we see a bit of a break in the rain tomorrow morning as the main rain band heads northwards, but eventually the cold front, the backside of the low, sweeps through, and you can see re-engages, and we see some more heavy, thundery stuff around the middle of the afternoon for central areas, and again that will sweep southeastwards before clearing into the evening. And then the properly cold air starts to arrive. Snow showers start to descend across parts of the Highlands of Scotland and elsewhere. Some cooler northwesterly winds, and you can't rule out maybe a few bits of sleet or growlpour within some of these heavier showers. They'll continue through much of Saturday, and again, it's the usual northwesterly spots. Downfields, northwest of England, North Wales, Scotland, and Northern Ireland getting the most showers, but on Saturday afternoon they could drift inland. Still got a fairly strong sun, at least relative to midwinter, so we are likely to see those showers still last further inland. As we head into Sunday morning, you can see it's fairly dry and fairly clear, and this is where we can see temperatures plummet in a few spots, getting quite low, and even into Sunday and Monday, similar pattern repeats itself. Less showers as that Scandinavian high starts to get going. But if we do look at the upper air temperatures, you can see the cold air sweeps in through Friday, in from the north, initially some chilly air, then some properly cold air arrives, and it does dissipate as we head through Sunday into Monday. But look, we stay in a fairly cool, below average air mass, and this time of year with higher pressure, a chilly air mass, we can still get relatively cold weather. And you can see the dew points are fairly low as well. Look at that, widely around freezing or below freezing, and that is early next week. Even colder dew points in the north through the weekend as that properly cold air arrives. So really seeing some signs of winter here. Again, not proper winter weather, I must emphasise that. It's still going to be double digits in the far south at times at the peak of the day, and it's going to be maybe sort of mid to high single digits elsewhere, so it's not properly cold, but for the time of year it's pretty chilly, and compared to what we've had over the last few months being in summer, and of course the late summer burst we've seen recently, it is going to feel very cold indeed. Now, to look at the max temperatures, you can see earlier today we saw temperatures peak around the 17 or 18 degrees to the far south, but elsewhere further northwards it's much cooler, and it's going to be much cooler through this evening in northern areas. But the south, behind the warm front, as we head into tomorrow morning, we could even see 18, 19 or even a 20 degree in the sunshine between the warm front and the cold front. Eventually, though, that cold front sweeps in, and as we look for Saturday, most areas mid to high single digits. Scotland starting to see those freezing temperatures. Saturday afternoon, those temperatures don't rise all too much, maybe 12 or 13 degrees in the south, 7 or 8 degrees further northwards, and again, colder over the hills again. Those sort of 2, 3 degrees or 0 degrees you see across Scotland really are mainly over elevated areas. Low-lying areas in Scotland, we're looking at mid to high single digits. As we head into Sunday, look at that, the area of the frost expands itself quite significantly, covering most of Scotland now, spreading into the Republic of Ireland, Northern Ireland, it's where these blues appearing, and even into parts of northern England there, maybe even in Wales through Sunday morning. Sunday afternoon, not looking at 13, 14 in the south, we're looking at 9 to 11 at best, and same further northwards, if not a couple of degrees cooler. So Sunday is going to be a really quite cold day, and then as we head into Monday, again, frost developing, a bit more cloud around, holding those temperatures up. But you can see even down into the far south, we're seeing 2 or 3 degrees, and locally, where we see some cloud breaks, could be even colder. Remember, the cloud can change at this time frame. We still can see that cloud break up. And then finally into Monday, again, we're looking at temperatures at best 10 to 12 degrees. So it's really quite chilly. And into Tuesday, look at that, even into parts of the Midlands and Wales, we're seeing temperatures down towards freezing. Mild across Scotland with increased cloud amounts, but cold under the centre of the high, and could even get even chillier as we start seeing easterly wind developing. After you look at the latest GFS, you'll be able to see that we've got that low approaching from the southwest at the moment. It sweeps through in the coming hours, and then we see the northerly wind arrive through Friday. That northerly wind lasts until about Sunday before getting cut off, and then high pressure builds into that cold air. And that's why we're looking dry and frosty for Monday. Same into Tuesday, but the high pressure starts to get going towards Scandinavia, and by the middle of the week, this is where we start to pull in easterly winds. And this is where there's uncertainty comes. Are we going to see a southeasterly down from the Mediterranean? Are we going to see a flat easterly off the near continent? Or are we going to see a northeasterly coming in from Scandinavia? Or are we going to see a bit of a mix of all, and potentially air masses getting mixed in in from different directions, because it's possible to see a southeasterly wind that is very cold. It's possible to see a northeasterly wind that's relatively mild, depending on the origins of this air. Now, if we look at the latest GFS, it's actually developing quite a cold air mass. Yes, the wind direction is initially coming from the southeasterly, but you can see round the high, a lot of cold air is getting dragged into this, and you see the -5 isotherm tries to make its way to our shores, doesn't quite do it, but we do go many degrees below freezing there, around the 850 HPA level, and the best way to view this is by looking at the potential equivalent temperature, and again, darker blues moving in, again giving you the perspective of the cold air mass spreading across much of northern Europe, turning us really white cold as we head in towards the end of next working week into the weekend. Now, eventually it does break apart. We stay under higher pressure, but the air does reduce in intensity as we see that push of cold air dissipate away. But even here, you see the warmer upper air temperatures still, though, potential equivalent temperature is still in those lighter blues, indicating still a relatively cold air mass, still relatively low dew points out towards the near constant. We're seeing a little push of slightly milder, more humid air there for a time, but still lots of cool, dry air to our east. So if this easterly kept going, yes, could oscillate, could rise in temperatures for a couple of days, but still likely to remain fairly cool as we head towards the end of October. Now, after you compare to the GEM, a bit of a spoiler there at day 10, is an easterly wind. Again, the northerly wind coming in over the coming days, high pressure built in, and towards the middle of the week, we start to pull in the easterly wind. Again, initially a southeasterly, initially a fairly mild southeasterly, actually quite a warm southeasterly. But as we head beyond that, the cold air arrives, and you see it does go many degrees below average, with some darker blues spreading in. So the GM is doing what I said, where it's oscillating up and down. It starts, it's actually a relatively warm or mild southeasterly, so it goes very cold this weekend, turns slightly milder towards the middle of the week, to end the week into the weekend, goes very cold once again. So most of the runs all have the same easterly flow, but the exact air mass is still difficult to pinpoint. The latest ECMWF, again, I haven't actually had a look at this in much detail, and you see the northerly wind arriving, high pressure building in, and then that easterly wind starts to arrive, turning things pretty chilly off the near constant. Again, more of a southeasterly, so actually spreading in milder air initially, but you see there's a big wedge of very cold air to our east that could have a go at spreading our way. We'll just have to keep a very, very close eye on it. Again, wouldn't give us anything ridiculously cold, but could mean around that Halloween, maybe towards sort of bonfire night period, end of October, early November, if we start to see easterly winds establish themselves, which is possible this time of year, it could be quite a chilly end of October and start of November. We will have to keep a very close eye on it. And again, in about 6 weeks' time, the possibility of a very cold easterly wind does start to come into existence. Middle to end of November is when the chances of more widespread, properly cold, maybe even snowy weather does become possible. So we're not far away, but still a good month and a half from anything really becoming a possibility. But very interesting seeing this so far. Definitely a big turn from what we were seeing a couple of weeks ago with very warm southerly pushes of air. So we go from one extreme to the other. Now, to finish, if you look at the latest ensembles, you can see a bit of the uncertainty in the longer term. We've got very cold air mass spreading this weekend, down to as much as 10 degrees below average at its peak, when we get the -4, -5 line in. And then we rise up as the high pressure topples over with a milder air mass for a time, but under the centre of the high, probably still likely to remain fairly chilly. Then we see the uncertainty come in. The mean of the ensemble members is slightly below average, but you can see the split. Some rating fairly mild, a good few degrees above average, 5 degrees above average thereabouts. Others 5 to as much as 10 degrees below average, including the operational run. So there's huge spread in the ensemble members, and I think it'll be reflected when we have a look at the dew points in a minute. They will be very varied, as we'll see some with a mild Mediterranean air mass, with dew points maybe into the mid-teens. Cold easterly winds could be coming in from other ensemble members with dew points down to -5 perhaps. Precipitation does increase, but not massively, so easterly winds are showery, especially this time of year. We do have moisture mixing in and fairly warm sea surface temperatures. We can see a lot of gloom and showers developing, and again, that will depend on the exact air mass and exact wind direction. 2 meter temperatures, cold. Looking into the weekend, 9 or 10 degrees at best. Could see a 20 degrees tomorrow. So temperatures dropping by 10 degrees in the next 48 hours or so. Brief rise as we head into early next week, maybe only to 14, 15 before we drop off from the majority of Ensemble members back down to the low teens, some going even colder with the even chillier easterly wind. Look at the dew points though, as I said, some 15 degrees, some -5. Again, showing you the huge disparity between milder Mediterranean air and cold Arctic air. You can see more on the colder, drier spectrum. So even some of these with cold dew points, even if their upper air temperatures are still relatively mild around average, it still can be chilly at the surface because it's dry, Arctic originating air. And you can see the dew points dropping very low at times this weekend, emphasising how cold it will feel out there for a couple of days through the weekend. Again, temperatures not ridiculously cold, again 10, 12 degrees at best, but it's going to feel quite considerably colder than that, and it's going to feel like we're back into winter as we're coming off 25 degrees last weekend and 35 degrees about a month, about 33 degrees it was, 32, 33 degrees about a month ago. So huge drop-offs. Finally, the ECNWF Ensemble members, the midday run hasn't fully come out, but you can see the midnight run. Big drop this weekend down towards the -4, -5 line. Rise, and much less of a split here. Yes, still some going cold, probably more about a quarter to a fifth of the runs, majority actually around average. So ECNWF favouring more of a drier, milder easterly wind. But GFS has got a bit more of a spread, so we will have to just continue to see. If we actually compare to the midday run yesterday, again, very minimal colder runs at all, so maybe a bit of bias here from the ECNWF on some members because the colder runs have increased in the last couple of runs, but we will just have to wait and see. It's still about a week to 10 days away from seeing any colder easterly wind, easterly flow come in, so things can still change quite quickly. One thing is, if we look at the sea level pressure, you can see it is generally higher pressure. London could see a burst of lower pressure. As we saw from some of the Ensemble members, around that high we could see little cut-off lows developing and disturbances. Again, those disturbances are of keen interest when we have potentially cold and snowy weather, but right now, when it's going to be 10, 11 degrees, it's just going to give miserable, cold, light rain in many areas. So it wouldn't be great if we did see that, and there's the potential of that setting up with this dip in pressure here of a disturbance, or a larger disturbance moving in. So you see things are changing very quickly, and it's shaping up to be quite a cold next week or two as we do start to see those easterly winds potentially developing, and we're looking definitely at a northerly wind this weekend. So make sure you do get your hats and gloves out and your coats out, especially if you're out early in the morning. We'll likely be down towards freezing or feeling like it is freezing. So do make sure you do go well prepared. No t-shirts and shorts, I don't think, for the foreseeable future, probably for the next 6 months or so, unfortunately, as we are properly descending into autumn and even a bit of taste of early winter at the moment. So anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you have enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you again for another video soon.